Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to take you through different ancient world maps, and I'm going to push the opinion that Australia has been mapped a long time ago, 1,000 years ago at least, easily, or even thousands of years ago, even, yep, I'm going to say it, just like Professor Charles Hapgood in the 50s, even before the end of the last ice age, before 12,000 years ago. Now, we'll get to that. Here we have, quite simply, a medieval view of the world, and this actually evolved from the Greek view of the world, as I'll explain. This is Europe, Asia, Africa, almost like a flower, Jerusalem in the middle, Arabia, the land bridge, the holy city. I think it's a holy city because it's the land bridge between all these continents, so it's always been holy. Since the beginning of time it's been holy to mankind. It's the place of pilgrimage. Everyone can go there. Here we have Denmark, Sweden. They put America here because they didn't know where else to put it. Where do you put America on a map like this? They had an idealistic version of the world, the old world. Then they brought this thing up. This is a Chinese map of the world. I believe it's from the 1400s. That looks like Australia to me. That looks like New Zealand. Could also be New Guinea, not sure. Not sure. This is a medieval map of the world. I'm just putting this here to show you again. This is how medieval people saw it. They saw Jerusalem in the middle and basically continents around it. The Mediterranean Sea would be a line running through here. It's hard to read Gothic writing, but that's the world. Now, the Orontius Phineas map, I believe it's from the 1500s. Now, there's such an outcry about this map. They're saying, oh, it shows Antarctica before the ice. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. Look how far it comes out, almost to Africa. You can't take this literally. This is an indication. In this case, I'm actually showing you that they've joined Australia into it. Now, Australia takes the name of Antarctica. Antarctica, they always thought it was Terra, Australis, Incognita. That means the southern land, Australis, the south, southern land, Incognita, that we don't know about, unknown. The unknown southern land, and there are two of them. There's Antarctica and there's Australia. So they've often joined them together, because if you're a map maker sitting in Europe, hey, you don't know the difference. You don't know the difference between them. They've joined Australia into this. Terra, Australis, Incognita. Here is the circle of fuego, very cold, I guess. Circular Antarctic. Here, just where you expect it, that's Indonesia. Just where you expect it, that's Australia, basically. And he actually says something. What does he say? Maxima e admiralia insula occidentia America. He actually says America. I believe he says America here. Not quite sure. But anyway, that's in Latin. But that is Australia. That is the Gulf of Carpentaria here. Or this is the west coast, and they've pushed it towards the east. It's in the right place. There's nothing else that could be. America's already drawn in anyway. This is the smoking gun. This is the map of Al-Masudi, who lived in the 900s AD, and he's taken the ancient Greek view that it's impossible to live on the equator because it's too hot, therefore all habited lands must be above the equator, but then he's drawn the great Incognita land. This is on the other side of the equator, this is the south. Now, one website says this must be South America. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Well, you know, it could be South America, but the problem with that is it's under Africa. If it was America, they would draw it here, wouldn't they? They would draw it in there. It's under Africa, so they're confusing that with Antarctica, and look at that, it's the same as the coastline of Australia. Arnhem Land, Western Australia, Perth would be there, and they've joined Antarctica into it, or a bit of Antarctica. And this is Gulf Carpentaria there. I have no idea what to make of that, but it looks like a Chinese map trying to show all the continents on one sphere, and the problem with these maps is they only show one side, so they cram it all in. They just cram it all in. The Greeks did the same thing. This is from 500 BC, and the reason why they said Atlantis is just beyond the Pillars of Hercules is, if you look at a map, if you try and draw America or Britain, which could be candidates for Atlantis, if you try and draw them on this map, where are you going to draw them? You have to draw them somewhere sort of there. And then someone will come around and look at this map and say, hey, Atlantis is just beyond the Pillars of Hercules, look at that. There's nowhere else to squeeze them. But in fact they could be miles off because they don't draw both sides. This is also, by the way, why Alexander thought that he was on the verge of seeing off the edge of the world. He thought he just goes all this way. This gave him so much confidence to travel so far. He thought, oh, it's only a little bit further. Only a bit further. He thought if he could just push his generals a little bit further, he would reach the edge, and they revolted just before he got to the edge. He was so depressed to set up his capital in Babylon. This was his view of the world, his empire here. He thought that was it. It goes much further. Here's an old map showing Terra, Australis, Incognita here. That says New Guinea, Nova Guinea. And it's joined into something towards the south. They're not sure where Australia begins, where Antarctica ends. This is 400 years old. Again, this is an old map. About 100 years after Columbus. And there we go. It shows a huge Antarctica because they're not sure where Antarctica ends, where Australia begins. That's Australia. It's right there. And that's a slightly later Greek map of the world than Hecaitus. This is more in the era of Eratosthenes, and they started to know about Britain by then. This is a Roman map. This is what Roman maps looked like, in this case the Waldmüller map, but this is Ptolemy's map. If you see maps that look like this, Ptolemy did it, and this is the Roman view of the world. So they all look like this. All of Ptolemy's maps look like this. They've been plotted using his coordinates, and they always show a big Ceylon. Not sure if that's Ceylon or not. And this is a Ptolemy map. They've added America to it. They've added that. Bigger than it needs to be. No Australia. There is no Australia depicted on Roman maps. Here we show something, you know, I guess Antarctica. Terra del Fuego. Ferdinand Stretcher. Again, based on the Greek idea that the equator was too hot to live on. So Africa is above the equator. And look, they've divided the Great Southern Land into 3 regions. Antarctica, which would be Frigida, here, Teperata, Antipodum, Nobis, Incognita. So he's actually saying our opposite side of the thing, and it's unknown. And then there's another land above it, Perusta. I don't know what that means. If someone can tell me, that's what the comments section are for. Let's have a discussion. And again, the smoking gun that Australia was known about 1,000 years ago, that's the north coast of Australia. That's not Brazil. I'm sorry guys, that's not Brazil, that's the north coast of Australia. Again, that's the north coast of Australia. This map, I'm not sure how old it is.